Everyone knows Tyrannosaurus rex. The name has become synonymous with dinosaurs themselves. It's the undisputed king of prehistory, dominating movies, museums, and popular culture for over a century. But here's the thing, Tyrannosaurus rex wasn't the beginning of the story. By the time T-Rex appeared, around 68 million years ago, Tyrannosaurs had already been evolving for well over 100 million years. Long before the king emerged, its ancestors were small, feathered hunters living in the shadows of much larger predators. This is the story of an extraordinary family, a dynasty that transformed from nimble Jurassic hunters into some of the most formidable land predators our planet has ever seen. These are the Tyrannosaurs. To understand Tyrannosaurs, we have to travel back around 170 million years, to the Middle Jurassic. The world looked nothing like it does today. The supercontinent Pangaea was beginning to split apart, the climate was warm, and dinosaurs had already become the dominant land animals. But the giants ruling the food chain were not Tyrannosaurs. Instead, enormous carnivores like Megalosaurus and early Allosaurids occupied the role of apex predator. Tyrannosaurs were simply living in their shadow. One of the oldest known members of the lineage is Proceratosaurus, discovered in England and once mistaken for a close relative of Ceratosaurus because of the distinctive nasal crest. Today we know it belonged to one of the earliest branches of the Tyrannosaur family tree. Standing only a few meters long, Proceratosaurus looks nothing like the giant skull-crushing predators that would eventually descend from it. Another early relative, Guanlong from China, carried a crest running along the top of its skull. It was lightly built, long-legged, and probably hunted smaller prey. At this point in history, tyrannosaurs were evolutionary underdogs. Animals like Torvosaurus and the earliest Allosauroids already ruled the world. The tyrannosaurs were simply waiting for their opportunity. Perhaps the biggest surprise comes from the fossils discovered in China. For decades, people imagined every tyrannosaur as a giant, scaly monster. Then scientists uncovered Dilong paradoxus. Unlike its famous descendants, Dilong was only around 1.5 meters long, yet impressions preserved alongside the skeleton revealed something truly remarkable: simple, filament-like feathers. This became one of the strongest pieces of evidence that feathers were widespread among early tyrannosaurs. Then came an even bigger surprise: Yutyrannus wali. Measuring around 9 meters long and weighing over a ton, Yutyrannus remains the largest dinosaur known with direct evidence of extensive feathering. Its discovery completely changes our perception of what tyrannosaurs could look like. Feathers weren't simply a feature of tiny dinosaurs, some large tyrannosaurs wore them too. Exactly how feathered later giants such as Tyrannosaurus rex were remains uncertain. Juveniles may have been fuzzier than adults, while mature animals could have lost much of that insulation as they grew larger. The evidence is still being debated, and that's the fascinating thing about paleontology. Every new fossil has the potential to rewrite the picture. For tens of millions of years, tyrannosaurs remained relatively modest in size. Then, something gradually changed. Species such as Tiberlengia reveal that before tyrannosaurs became giants, they became smarter. Its beautifully preserved brain case shows enlarged regions associated with hearing, balance, and sensory processing. Combined with an advanced inner ear, these adaptations suggest tyrannosaurs had already evolved exceptional senses long before they reached enormous sizes. Evolution basically upgraded its software before upgrading the hardware. Around this same time, another small tyrannosauroid called Moros intrepidus lived in North America. It was tiny, weighing an estimated 78 kilograms, roughly the size of a deer, and known only from a partial hind limb. Despite that, it represents one of the earliest known tyrannosaurs on the continent, and its very smallness tells us something important. Even 96 million years ago, with giants still ruling the ecosystem, tyrannosaurs hadn't started their growth spurt just yet. For millions of years, giant allosauroid predators still dominated, as mentioned. Chief among them were the Carcharodontosaurids, a lineage of enormous blade-toothed hunters that ruled North America and Asia for tens of millions of years. Then, around 90 million years ago, they vanished from the fossil record. Exactly why remains uncertain. Climate change, shifting ecosystems, and competition likely all played a role. Tyrannosaurs certainly didn't cause that disappearance, but they were perfectly positioned to exploit it. Their exceptional senses, increasingly powerful jaws, and rapidly growing body sizes meant that when the throne was suddenly empty, they were the ones ready to sit in it. What followed wasn't an overnight coup, it was an inheritance, tens of millions of years in the making, finally cashed in. The tyrannosaurs were ready. Across North America and Asia, tyrannosaurs rapidly diversified. Some evolved into lightly built pursuit predators, others became heavily built ambush hunters. In western North America, Yutyrannus is among the earliest giant tyrannosaurs we know. Its broad skull and forward-facing eyes already resemble those of its enormous, famous descendant. Soon after came predators like Tyrannosaurus, followed by Daspletosaurus. Daspletosaurus possessed a deep, immensely powerful skull and may even preserve evidence of social interactions through healed bite marks found on multiple specimens. Further north, Albertosaurus and its close relative Gorgosaurus developed a more lightly built body plan. Longer legs suggest that these animals may have relied more heavily on speed than their stockier cousins. One remarkable bone bed in Canada preserves the remains of more than 20 Albertosaurus individuals. Whether they hunted together or simply died together remains uncertain, but it hints at behaviour that continues to intrigue paleontologists even today. Then there was Thanatothyristes, whose name translates as Reaper of Death. Discovered in Canada and described in 2020, it reminds us that even now, entirely new tyrannosaurs continue to emerge from the rocks. Far to the north lived Nanungosaurus, adapted to the polar environments of ancient Alaska. Despite freezing winters and months of total darkness, these northern ecosystems supported a surprising diversity of dinosaurs. Meanwhile, Asia produced its own spectacular branch of the family. Alioramus evolved an unusually long, narrow snout, decorated with small bony bumps. Its close relative Tyrannosaurus earned the nickname Pinocchio Rex thanks to its elongated jaws. These skulls weren't simply strange for the sake of it. They likely allowed the animals to specialise on different prey, reducing competition with larger, more robust tyrannosaurs. And it's worth pausing on that, because it's easy to assume that every tyrannosaur was racing towards gigantism. They simply weren't. Alioramus and Tyrannosaurus stayed considerably smaller than their heavyweight cousins, some estimates putting them at roughly half the length of a full-grown Tarbosaurus. That wasn't a growth stage that they eventually outgrew. It was their full adult body plan, a permanent, smaller-bodied niche that let them hunt alongside giants without competing directly with them. Size was not the only strategy this family had, it's just the one that got them famous. And then there was Tarbosaurus, as mentioned. Closely related to Tyrannosaurus rex, it ruled ancient Mongolia with a massive skull and crushing bite. Although slightly more lightly built than its North American cousin, Tarbosaurus was every bit an apex predator. By now, Tyrannosaurs had spread across much of the northern hemisphere. Their dynasty had reached its peak. Finally, we arrive at arguably the most famous dinosaur ever discovered, Tyrannosaurus rex. Growing up to around 12 to 13 meters long and weighing as much as 9 tons, it represented the culmination of over 100 million years of evolutionary refinement. Biomechanical modelling of a T-Rex skull based on laser scans of the jaw and muscle reconstructions drawn from its closest living relatives, crocodiles and birds, puts the bite force at the back teeth somewhere between 35,000 and 57,000 newtons. That's roughly the equivalent of having a small car park on top of you. And it makes T-Rex's bite the strongest ever measured in a land animal, living or extinct. Combine that with banana-shaped teeth that were built to resist snapping under that kind of force, and you get a mouth capable of crunching straight through bone, not just tearing flesh from it. None of that would matter without the senses to use it too. Exceptional binocular vision let it judge distance with precision, and an oversized olfactory system gave it a sense of smell that could probably track prey or carrion from kilometers away. Far from being slow or clumsy, evidence also suggests that T-Rex could move with surprising efficiency, even if outright sprinting remained unlikely at that size. It wasn't just powerful, it was specialized. In growth rate, in bite mechanics, in sensory reach, in every measurable trait a predator can have. Every one of those traits was inherited, refined, and stacked on top of what came before it, all the way back to small feathered hunters skulking in the shadows of bigger animals 170 million years before. Tyrannosaurus rex wasn't an evolutionary accident, it was the final masterpiece in an ancient dynasty. When people think of tyrannosaurs, they usually picture the one animal, but as we found out, the truth is far richer. This family produced feathered hunters, crested predators, arctic specialists, long-snouted hunters, and some of the largest carnivores to ever walk the earth. They survived the changing continents, they outlasted rival predators, and they adapted again and again for 100 million years. Then, 66 million years ago, an asteroid struck what is now Mexico. The resulting global catastrophe brought the reign of the non-avian dinosaurs to an end. The tyrannosaurs vanished alongside them, yet their story still survives. Because every new fossil adds another chapter to one of evolution's greatest success stories. And if this incredible family has taught us anything, it's that sometimes the most famous member of the family is only the end of a much larger story. This is the first episode of what I hope will become a brand new series, exploring the incredible dinosaur dynasties that dominated our planet for millions of years. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Tyrannosaurs and their family and want to see the series continue, I'd really appreciate it if you left a like, subscribed for more prehistoric content, and shared this video with someone who's just as fascinated by dinosaurs as you are. And before you go, let me know down in the comments which dinosaur family we should explore next. But until next time, stay curious.